watching the NWP podcast. You're watching the new one live. You're watching the NWP podcast. You're watching the new one live. You're watching the NWP podcast. You're watching the new one live. You're watching the NWP podcast. You're watching the new one live. I know this is
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the New Watch. We'll take it from here. I'm Mortimer Lieberstein, and with us, as always, Mr. Tony York.
Hey, good morning, folks, and Mr. Gay Nazi Jew.
I wouldn't say I'm a Nazi, I'm more of a realist.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
How are you doing today? Oh, we also have a Chinaman joining us today from Texas, Mr. Sean Pownery.
I need more money. My legs are shorter. I work farther. I have to take care of my family.
Come on, get to it. Love you long time.
Me no love you long time.
I just want some yum yum.
All right off the bat, I'm bailing out of here in about 40 minutes. We have a Labor Day parade. I won't be able to hear shit at the start.
Wait, what was your excuse? I couldn't hear you.
It's Labor Day. We have our Labor Day parade. I won't be able to hear shit for all fire trucks and cop cars and bullshit.
Why are you outside right now? I'm not aware of your set. I'm going to introduce myself in a second. I just wanted to get the whole opening out of the way.
I'm about 40 feet from the street.
But well, don't you have some sort of a studio set up? You sound really good.
I sound good by virtue of genetics.
Oh, so you're part fax machine?
Yep.
Oh, that makes a lot more
Machine
sense.
anyway. You're hearing my pacemaker in the background.
Oh,
He is a love child of one Howard Stern.
oh, I see what you're doing. I like it. I like it. It's funny. Tony, why don't you do one? Be British.
What? No, I'm actually related to all them lying cocksuckers. I don't want to do no part of it.
Oh, well. Sorry. I had a coughing fit. Dizzy spell, kind of.
Yeah,
Um,
it's been taking on all that big meat.
yeah, oh yeah, I can tell you stories, boy. But yes, I am. My name is Mortimer Lieberstein. I was born in Ashkenazi, but obviously I had learned the truth of the lineage of the background of my people. So I'm now born again Southern Baptist. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a Nazi like Mr. Tony called me, but I am one to think that one race should stick to their own people and that type of thing. But other than that, I'm a fun-loving guy. My favorite gun's a minigun. Y'all like miniguns?
Well, we have that in common.
Yeah. Maybe one day we could just go and throttle a couple
No,
miniguns together one day.
there
Oh,
ain't ever going to be no one day we anything.
oh gosh, I'm having such a hard time keeping a straight face today. Jeez. Oh, I forgot to mention I am a homosexual. I'm not one
No
of those,
shit.
not one of these weird bi motherfuckers that can't make up their mind. I brought my broom to clean things up here.
And then fly away.
Do you happen to know one Clayton Bigsby?
I can't. Does this man have a translator?
This man is this man is blind, black, and the ultimate clan member. I saw him on TV one time.
oh, you're talking about, yeah, I've seen him. Pretty good guy. I'd hang out with him on a Sunday. We got a bunch of people out there in the audience. We got a gunmetal guy. Sam of Anarchy, Tactical FUD,
But I'm sorry you showed up for this particular one.
and Scotty 79. Well, we're gonna get into it here. Have you gentlemen seen the movie The Prey yet?
No.
No, no.
Oh, Amber Midlander. Ooh.
Yeah, the slope back, thick legged Indian lady. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. But I just people don't realize or understand how disrespectful this new Predator movie is to the Comanche. They would have never let that girl go out and hunt with them. They probably would have killed her and chopped her head off. Just
Well,
saying.
being disrespectful to whatever tribe of Indians is around here is nothing new in America.
Right? Oh, we were way disrespectful to them back in the day with all those SARS blank little or not SARS. That's the Chinaman. You got me all thrown off.
I'll
Um,
have you know it is Kung Flu, sir.
whatever. What y'all always have those respiratory problems 'cause you're a short people. I understand. I understand. But yes, giving them the smallpox blankets, that was enough of a bully in there. We don't need to make this movie pray.
We tried to produce the smog only so high above our heads to get you, hygiene.
Uh, Tony, I'm getting every third word. I don't know if you're weird. This is the.
I, I don't speak chink or fag, so I'm lost here.
But I mean, am I right though, gentlemen? I mean, this movie is just kind of it doesn't make sense to me, not even on a historical or a physical basis.
As I said earlier, haven't seen it, don't know. However, I know in past America, we felt the only good Indian was a dead one. How we got away from that?
Well, was
Uh,
it more about killing them all, or was it kind of just killing enough so we could take over the land?
well, if you left any of them alive, you'd have to give them somewhere to frickin' stay and then go back and take it later when you found something worth something on it.
Like a casino, but it, or a reservation.
Casinos probably put out as much gold as some of the frickin' creeks, I suppose.
It's an old saying over there on an Indian reservation I heard one time. If you give a man gas, he can drive his car. But if you give a man a gas can, he can get high for days.
Uh, Probably months.
They're only getting a gallon out of me. Fucking Indians.
Long as you screw the lid back on before you fall over and pass out,
Ah,
gas
there.
lasts a long time.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
an expensive way to go in the Joe Biden economy.
that is
Well,
true.
back in the 70s, it was cheap. You could get a gallon of gas for about a quarter.
Probably switched over to Raid. Bug spray.
And back then, you could get it with lead in it.
Uh, that's probably double high. Um, let's get into. I have a little bit of a made-up scenario here. Um,
You don't say.
say you're a felon, and I, you got a girlfriend. She lives in the house, and she has her own gun safe. Now somebody breaks in, and you are a felon, like I said, and you happen to get a hold of her gun and shoot the intruder. What happens next?
You give her the fucking gun and go hide.
Well, if you're going to do that, you give her the gun and then have her shoot one in the floor so the gunpowder residue's on her forearm and hand. And then you go scrub your shit with some hops number 9. But
If you hide well enough, they won't know you're there.
in a legal sense, though, let's say you want to do everything above the board.
You're going to fucking jail.
How about you, Chinaman? I know you guys don't got any good laws over there for guns or anything like that. I don't even know if you guys got guns. Last one I seen was battery powered.
We
But
use AK every day.
2A every day. I didn't hear you.
2 AK every day.
To AK every day.
So
That's a
you say felon defends home,
yes.
picks up gun,
Yeah,
owns by girlfriend.
but now let's put this clear a little bit clearer though. Now he doesn't necessarily have possession of it. He's not in possession of it 9 times out of 10. It was just this one time his wife got into the safe and wasn't able to pull the trigger, so he did the dirty work for her.
Hmm. This is home defense.
Home defense. Somebody broke
You're
in and
fucking
tried to
going to
kill and rape him.
jail. You're gonna have a good time when you get there.
Well, I like to remember
He may not.
a little word called discretion. I believe
If you
judges and police have it.
if you have same lawyer as X, Swalwell, and Fang Fang, you get off on technicality.
Y'all's accents are fucking awful.
You're having a hard time keeping up with character, aren't you?
I just keep having these
No,
coughing fits. It's
Yeah,
horrible. I have coughing fits and
it
have to get
seems
off
really
the
natural
thing.
for Jimmy Dad gay.
I think honestly, in that situation, if you were to defend your home and you were living with somebody who is a gun owner and you pick up that gun to defend the house, did you kill the intruder?
He's dead.
Okay, so a good defense attorney will argue castle doctrine versus unauthorized use of firearm, but it's one of those when seconds count situations. And at the most, I don't think a judge would prosecute that. I really don't. I mean, yes, you're a felon, but you're also trying to defend life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And you know you're not supposed to have it, but the situation demanded it. This is kind of like when G Webs used to talk about once you've repaid your debt to society, you should get your rights back because what's the point of a correctional facility if you're still condemned on the way out? So there's that gray area, but I think a prosecutor wouldn't really push for that one just because it would look bad on him, and GOA would pretty much blacklist him from every case afterwards.
Yeah, and I mean, and then that would set a precedence too of that, like, well, maybe felons should have their rights reinstated or something. It might bring up one of
Yeah, they
those
don't want to
fucking
touch that.
case laws or whatever.
Exactly. They don't want to touch that. They would rather let the one go because they don't want a wave of, hey, that happened to me too, and I'm in fucking jail. That kind of
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna depend on the political leanings of the prosecutor. You do that shit in Chicago, your ass is going
That's what I'm
to
saying.
fucking
Like
jail.
when it goes to a grand jury and they decide, is there a case here? The prosecutor is going to present a case to either a judge or a grand jury, and he's going to say, look, this guy was a felon. He wasn't even supposed to have a gun. The judge would probably, if he's a lib, he's going to push his leanings aside because he sees the bigger picture. He sees the wood for the trees. He'll be like, look, you don't want this smoke because if we prosecute this, yes, he's guilty because he's a felon in possession of a firearm, but every single circumstance that led him up to that is going to make us look terrible. And every single person we prosecuted for the same reason is going to demand an appeal. And this is going to become a national thing. They don't want that, especially when they're trying to drive gun control. That seems like slam dunks for them.
Oh yeah, and if it's a good shoot, then they're just gonna. Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't. Yeah, I can't keep doing it. But if it was a good shoot, they fucking obviously the only thing that they have him on would be felon with a gun, and like you said, that would end up fucking him because now you're saying that's an implication that felons don't have the right to defend their lives or people that they live with lives or whatever the fuck. So then that would open a whole bunch of doors that they would rather stay shut for now.
I doubt it. I mean, like I say, it would depend on the
I'm telling you,
political system where you're at.
let it happen. Let if I was in this scenario, let me be a felon in Illinois and that shit happened to me, fine. But we're going to the Supreme Court. And that
Uh-huh.
might end up being a win for fucking the Second Amendment. Now, mind you, in Chicago, are most people I mean, I can't speak for most people, but I would say you know, as a guess of how stupid our society has become, that most people wouldn't take it to the Supreme Court. They just take their time, maybe try to appeal it, but I'm going to the Supreme Court. That's
You
where
I'll
I'm
see,
tell
I
you
at.
don't,
this much.
I don't know if a
When
defense attorney is allowed at the grand jury hearing. I don't think so because charges hadn't been filed yet.
Right.
But if there was somebody of a defensive mind on site, because they need to hear a pro and a con argument for this before a judge says there's enough here, take it to trial. If there was a guy like that, he would literally say, "You don't want this smoke. This could go all the way to the Supreme Court." Like if you have a defensive minded person in that room, he would say, "Oh, let me be his court appointed defense attorney because I'll take you straight to the Supreme Court." Like he could threaten that instantly and set the stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you, my dad's attorney told him that when my brother, who is a convicted felon, got out of jail, was going to come home and stay with dad, that dad needed to get his guns out of the house.
Not even lock them up.
No, locking them up don't count.
Get them the fuck out. That's crazy. See, because I've heard of people being able to keep their shit, but just having to, you don't have access to it. But then, like, if they really wanted to, they could bust in and do like DNA testing in the safe and fingerprinting and all that shit, and make sure that you ain't been in there. So I don't know.
That's just what he was told, and that's what he did. I mean,
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
I
especially
probably
if
sound fucking stupid.
see, but that's our problem too. Is that I mean, we're just coming to fucking well, some of us of 'em in America, I don't know, but people are starting to come to realize that fucking cops lie, and that's a fucked up situation right there. That because most people, and this isn't being dumb or not, or seeing the light or not, or whatever. I mean, most of us are brought up when we're kids, like to respect cops or to fear cops or both, and whatever. So if you got somebody that's a cop
Me,
telling you something and they're talking out of their ass and have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, a majority of people are gonna listen, thinking that that cop knows what the fuck he's talking about and blah blah blah.
we had considerably different upbringing.
Well, yeah, but nonetheless, though, I'm saying when it comes to that one thing, most people are raised to fucking, either fear or respect cops.
My family fucking hated cops.
Fear, in one way or
You
another.
know, hate. But then there was a lot of jail in my family in the past.
I guess hate is a good one too. Yeah, yeah. But nonetheless, people look at him as as an authority, and I just hope more people realize that these motherfuckers, half of them, don't even know what citizens' rights are, let alone, you know. We should do that, like a man on the street, and start asking cops, what's the Bill of Rights? Let's see how many
You have
call
the right to remain silent.
in. Right to remain silent. Second Amendment, and
Right
anything you
to the
say can and will be.
attorney if it gets good.
Oh shit. Hey, did I tell you? I know I told Shawnee on his show, but did I tell you that they're offering 5 grand a body in Lake Mead
Yeah,
if you have the correct equipment?
the correct equipment's going to cost more than the 5 grand.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You need to get a boat. You need a winch. You need fucking
Scuba
yeah.
gear.
Yeah. You need a whole bunch of shit. Scuba
You
gear.
can get away with scuba gear and a fish finder and a raft, but then you're going to have to find a way to get that body on your boat.
Yeah, and you fuck around and pull up a barrel, one of them barrels that are filled with concrete or something. You're gonna have a hard time in a raft.
I need to go partly into old character here. If you have oyster collecting bag and pocket knife, you can dig up on.
You,
But it made me, hey, but I'm telling you, the only reason that I know that Sean is even half right is because I looked into prices of fucking boats and winches and scuba gear and all that shit.
Yeah, it ain't cheap,
Yeah, I was gonna go body
especially
hunting.
if your boat runs on diesel. Good God.
did you hear about the mass stabbing in Canada over the weekend?
Nah, what happened with them?
Yeah. I got in trouble for that one. I got banned for 24 hours for my comment
What
for it.
band
A
kitchen
couple of
sets?
guys went on a stabbing spree, evidently.
Hell yeah.
Let's see. Two guys. Let's see. It was two guys. Series of stabbings in the indigenous community in Saskatchewan. 10 people are dead. 15 are wounded. It was in the Cree. It was in the James Cree Nation village of Weldon.
Oh, Bobby
So
over there.
because they're Indians, there's not going to be a knife ban. Is that what I'm getting?
Um. Well, so my response to that story was coming soon to a dystopian future near you. Knife control, followed by car control, bicycle control, sport control. You might laugh, but the systematic disarmament of the law abiding was never about safety. It was always about control and your codependence on Big Gov to clean up the murder scene because you thought they were there to protect you. When seconds count, some of you in the know could finish the rest of this quote.
Yeah.
I got banned for that response. I was like,
But it ain't far off though, man. And I mean the fucking whole disarming everybody, all that shit. It's crazy.
well, since we're
Well,
covering
Canada
news
can fucking
stories,
do it by decree.
I actually have a pretty shocking one this morning. Uh, and a lot of people are saying the same thing. It's like, wow, way to set the stage for a third world war. So you know that Russia cut off Nord Stream 1 and 2, and they cut off oil and natural gas supplies to Europe and most of the world, right? And obviously Biden's trying to blame it on him that oil prices are going through the roof. But just recently, it began to sort of go into decline a little bit, but that's typical because uh, the summer driving season's over and people are going back to school, right? In response to the falling oil prices, this has nothing to do with Russia or the United States. OPEC announced today that they were cutting oil supplies because the prices are falling. Can you fucking believe that? It's like, wait a minute. The day before the 2020 election, I paid $1.17 for 93 octane gas. Okay, they weren't bitching then. Now the gas is still $3.59 a fucking gallon for me. Oh, we have to cut oil supplies because the prices are coming down too far. The answer to this, the solution to this, or the response to this by dependent nations is very simple because NATO and the UN are bigger than OPEC in sheer numbers, right? It's time to just start sanctioning those fuckers into the Stone Age.
Fucking
We'll
water
be like,
cars, man. We've had 2 people already get killed over water cars. Let's fucking. We gotta do this.
well, okay. So if we're gonna get into cars, the Honda came up with the ultimate solution about almost 20 years ago, probably about 15 years ago. They had a car called the FCX Clarity. The car ran on hydrogen. It was a hydrogen fuel cell car. Top Gear back then, James May, did an interview with Jay Leno in California driving it. And he was like, look at this car. It's got 4 doors, it's got a trunk. I get in it, I turn a key, everything lights up, and I'm driving. It says I have 330 miles range. But what you don't know is, and he explains the hydrogen fuel cell, right? And he goes, what makes this car brilliant and perfect is the fact that it does everything that the car you already own does. There's no special learning curve. You get in, you turn a key, you drive. When you have to fill it, you go to the gas station, you go to the pump that says hydrogen on it, you stick it in the car, and the only thing you do different is instead of squeezing a lever, you turn a lock and push a button. And he was explaining it with Jay Leno, and Jay goes, this is the solution to the future of transportation. Because he says, you'll never lose all gasoline powered cars. When the automobile was invented, it came out and it allowed people to ride horses for the enjoyment of the animal, not to be dependent on them for transportation and carrying heavy things and whipping them to death. So then the horse population actually recovered because not all of them were being, whipped to death carrying train rail steel and shit. He was like, the car did that for the horse. The hydrogen fuel cell car will do that for the gasoline powered car. You can still enjoy your muscle cars, your 4-wheel drives, and things like that. But he says everyday transportation can be dependent on the new thing. And the new thing only puts out water out of the tailpipe because it's electrolysis and it just creates water vapor by hydrogen and oxygen and electricity. No toxic batteries that weigh 4 to 8,000 pounds that cost $20,000 to repair. Has an engine the size of a watermelon with one moving part, and it creates enough electricity to power 9 houses with everything turned on. That's the key here. The only industry big enough to make that a reality is the same industry that's been supplying you coal or supplying you oil and gasoline. If oil companies got smart, they would have figured out how to turn this into their next monopoly. That way they control both, which means they control the prices of both. Because a hydrogen car, back at the time Top Gear did the interview, cost $11 to fill from empty to full. It gave it 330 miles range. And if you think about it, you can upscale it. So it's like if the motor was the size of a watermelon, imagine if you made the motor the size of 2 watermelons. Now you have something that uses the same technology in something the size of an 18-wheeler. So that means all transportation now can come off of gas, do the exact same thing it's been doing, and at the same time, you create power plants that run on the same thing. Because if one little watermelon-sized thing can power 9 houses, imagine what a power station running multiples of those that are much larger could do. This is why we don't have it here, because the powers that be, this isn't tinfoil hattery. This is just, I don't know if it's the oil companies, I don't know if it's government, I don't know if it's the producers of hydrogen, I don't know. But whoever is in charge of making that a reality don't want humanity to be that energy independent, because it's too cheap to make and it makes too much power, and that takes away the dependence of people on certain things, just like government. The government wants to hamstring you and disarm you enough to keep you dependent on it. They want to promise you free things at the expense of the taxpayer to keep you dependent on government for your next paycheck. I mean, there was a derogatory term. It's called porch monkey, and obviously it had a certain racial connotation. But if you think about it, there was people of all colors waiting on the porch for their checks. It's the same thing. It's all about codependence on whoever's in charge to keep you from being independently free to do whatever the fuck you want.
Well,
Because
exactly,
if
and
you
that's
think
why
about
they could. That's why they haven't fucking. They're still considering this hydrogen shit because it's still electricity. It's still whatever. They're still gonna be dependent on shit. If you do,
no,
you,
it
you
gets
never heard of
worse.
Stan. You never heard of Stan Myers?
Yeah, but is that the guy with the oh my god they poisoned me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. This is different though because like at the end of the day, Shell Oil began installing hydrogen fuel stations in my state, even though hydrogen fuel cell cars are not allowed to be sold here. How fucked up is that? There's 9 stations within 10 miles of me that provide it, but there's no car I can buy that has it. Most of them are only available for lease. You can't even buy it in the state of California. You have to lease it, right?
Yeah, it's because
And I
our
thought,
government is corrupt. All they want is the profit margin to rise. They don't care about shit else.
and they want you dependent on big oil, which government can sit there and penalize, say, you're profiteering. We're going to penalize you and make billions off of you because you're making tens of billions with the Bernie Sanders crowd. Anyway,
Yeah, of course. I mean, well, that's how it is too. I mean, with that system, with the welfare system, with every system, it's designed for you to get hooked on it yourself, to be dependent on it, and then fucking have kids, make them dependent on it, show them how to get a hold of the system,
a
and
next
then
So
generation.
you're saying the government made fucking fun.
Well, here's the worst part.
yeah, pretty much.
I saw that clarity way back then, and I thought that's the solution. And I've been banging on about it with people who talk about cars all the time ever since then, right? And Honda didn't come up with it first. Before Honda, BMW had it. They called the Hydrogen 7. Before BMW had it, it was actually invented by GM in 1999. GM made the first hydrogen fuel cell car. It was called Highwire. They didn't do anything then. Strangely enough, James May drove that years before the Clarity. Now, Toyota has one called the Mirai. And if you look at one of those things, they're freaking awesome. Like they actually, the problem with hybrid cars, the original hybrid car, is they looked like invalid carriers. They weren't in pretty shapes that you wanted to buy. You didn't look at a Prius and go, that, I want to drive that. You were like, no, that is a loser cruiser, mommy missile, egg on wheels. Get that shit out of my sight, right? They didn't make it attractive. The Mirai is actually good looking. It looks almost like a ES 400 Lexus or some shit. But here's the fucked up part. Even though we know that's the solution, even though we know that we're not allowed to have it because somebody is preventing the world from having all this energy, even though it uses the most abundant element in the universe, and it was recently discovered that one of the byproducts of nuclear fission at nuclear power plants is the production of pure hydrogen gas, which is what you need, right? It's like, oh, look, we have a solution for energy and transportation energy. Imagine that. Like, we're embracing Fallout, right? I'm going to go into an impression of fucking Jericho, the guy I always say you sound like to me. Honda made 3 generations of the Clarity. The one I'm talking about was the first generation. The second generation, they made 2 versions of it. One was the hydrogen fuel cell, one was a gas electric hybrid. And I was like, okay, they're offering 2 because they obviously are running on the reputation of the first one, and they want to give you options just in case you can't have the other one in your state. Fine. The third generation came out, and I recently saw one of the third generations in my state on the road. And I thought, oh my God, they finally did it, right? And I looked it up. It was so popular that Honda canceled it in 2019, but they just started selling them this year in my state. Here's the worst part. It only comes available in the plug-in electric model. They got rid of the hydrogen fuel cell. Honda, you fucking morons.
That was the longest impression I've ever heard, and it didn't sound nothing like me.
Oh, well, the Jericho part was, the fuck out of here. Fucking Honda, get the fuck out of here.
That's better. It's closer.
Sorry. Thanks for reminding me because I almost forgot about doing that.
It's closer. It's closer.
The problem with hydrogen fuel cell vehicles currently is tied to the same problem with trying to go complete electric battery vehicles. The
And what is
infrastructure is not there to
Yes,
support it on a national
Correct.
level.
correct. And that's why I was saying that the oil companies who run the oil monopoly are the only people with deep enough pockets to make a national fueling station grid a reality. But I was sort of encouraged because I noticed Shell is starting to do it because they put them in my state. I see them. So I'm like, okay, that's a good thing. It's just, will others follow suit? Because if you imagine, if you took Shell, Chevron, uh, there's 3 or 4 big oil companies in the United States. Shell's one, Chevron's
Exxon,
the other one,
BP,
BP, okay, and maybe even Valero. Maybe I don't think you'll get Valero on board because they're from South America and they do ethanol. But let's say you take those big 3. If they got together and they started installing stations all or pumps all across their national network, the problem is solved. They don't want you to do that. They don't want to provide you the thing that costs 1/3 the cost of gas and produces 9 times the energy. They don't want that. They need you dependent. Just like when they put out the hybrid car and the hydrogen car, they didn't want you to own it. They wanted you to lease it because they didn't want you fucking with it, which kept you dependent on the dealer. It's the same thing. They're trying to keep everyone codependent. They don't want independence. They're just like fucking government.
Yeah.
So the felon should be able to shoot that guy in the face because fuck you, freedom.
Well,
I would say that they're less like government than they are part of government.
well, yeah. I think government is fucking. It's banks. If you act like how a bank would act, you're acting how a government would act. It's all about profit at the end of the day. It's all about controlling people and controlling their money and controlling the fucking shit that they do. It's all
See,
about that. We're going. You can see now how we're all headed towards this fucking one world shit.
yeah, and you see, the thing is, at the end of that interview with May, Clarkson sat there and he looked at everyone in the face and he goes, "School children, pay attention to this." Now, if you think about it, the time he did the interview, they're in college right now. Those kids he was reaching out to. He goes, "School children, think about this. Learn your science, learn your schooling, learn your math, learn your engineering right now. Because whoever figures out how to make hydrogen in mass very cheaply, that you can store it, create it, and distribute it, will become the richest, most powerful person on the face of the earth. They will become Time Magazine's man of the century. Because what they would have done is paramount to the discovery of oil in the first place. Because think about how fast the world changed when the first oil rig blew its top, spindle top. and how the world like fast forwarded the airplane, the automobile, the tank, the freaking battleship, things like that. All those things had advanced so far so fast. I mean, think about it like this: an aircraft pilot in World War II was put in an airplane, and he was told 40 years ago the Wright brothers flew at Kitty Hawk, or flew at, yeah, Kitty Hawk, right? Now imagine a guy 40 years after World War II, 1980, right? So somebody in 1980 was told, just think, 40 years ago for you was a World War II pilot, but 40 years before him was paper airplanes with little gas engines on. That's how fast the world evolved. That's how fast the world shrunk down. Because, I mean, when it took a week to cross the Atlantic, the world was gigantic, right? It was telegraph. It wasn't internet. It was fucking really crappy electric or crackly phones and shit because they didn't really have an international network of fucking telephone wire yet.
Yeah, but see, but that's still it's a whole bunch of shit to do. I understand that it's simple, and I understand that it, all that. But if somebody can get the fucking water thing, like that guy Stan Myers was getting ready to do, and allegedly, I don't know the truth behind it, but apparently somebody that was involved in that Buffalo shooting that got killed had a
Mm-hmm.
patent out for a water engine, a water ran engine. We can get that, man. That's fucking. Unless it stops raining,
You
that's a
could only
natural
do
resource
that
we'll
by
never
getting
run out of.
water. You can only do that by getting flammable water from the Cleveland area.
Or Flint.
Just put a bucket out when it rains and you can fill up your car. How does that sound?
Well, see, the dirty little secret is, well, no, because you're not allowed to collect rainwater.
Yeah, see,
Um,
exactly.
one of the
Or
dirty little secrets out
who
there
the
was,
fuck? Hold on a second. One of the dirtiest little secrets. We'll talk about that in 1 second. But who the fuck? What the fuck? They restrict you from collecting rainwater? What a
Yep,
bunch of pieces of shit we live under.
you
we
do know
can't do it here
sodomy is
either.
illegal in most states too, right? Like, how did they know you're doing it?
Yeah, I'll do it if I want to do it. I mean, fuck
Nosy
them.
fucking neighbors.
Yeah, like somebody's walking around seeing the missus come out, rubbing her backside and wincing, going, "That son of a bitch."
Yeah, but how many normal people would think that these cocksuckers outlawed collecting rainwater? No one would think that that's a
They
real
did it.
thing unless they looked at it.
They want you dependent on the water supply.
That's right. It's illegal here to store potable water.
Yeah, don't drink that pure rainwater coming down. Drink the shit that we put minerals and fluoride in that rot your teeth and control your mind. That
turning
that sometimes have amoeba outbreaks and eat your brain.
turning the frogs gay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Florida is a fucking natural tranquilizer too.
Yeah. Yep,
Helps
yep.
keep y'all calm if you drink the city water.
Have you guys
Well,
talked?
one of the
Oh,
dirty secrets of water
yeah.
in the engine, back in the 40s, maybe even the maybe the late 30s, the U.S. Army Air Corps actually had a terminology called war emergency power. And the P-47 Thunderbolt was famous for this. If you did war emergency power, it injected water into the engine with the avgas. It caused it to run at a much higher compression, which gave you a lot of extra power, but it was really hard on the engine because it wasn't meant to compress water. Fast forward to a couple of years ago, the new BMW M4 has water injection.
My '86 GMC had water injection.
Yeah, but you had a blown head gasket.
No, I didn't. It had fucking water injection on it.
Did it really?
Yeah,
What motor was it? Don't tell me it was a 350 diesel.
305.
It really had water injection?
Yeah, it was aftermarket, but it was water injection.
Oh.
Cut
What
back
was
on pinging. You could run it far more advanced on timing. It wouldn't ping.
Hmm.
Supposed to get it better gas mileage, which it didn't fucking do a thing that I could tell. It's got about 4.
Well, okay, so one of the things I knew of was it makes a much higher compression ratio. It cools down the air intake temperature. One of the dangers was is the detonation that it caused actually blew the carbon right off the top of the piston and the underside of the valves. So they said don't run it for too long because you'll literally grenade the piston or the valves. Like it must have put out such a tiny amount of water to keep it safe. Otherwise, they'd be sued into the next century.
I think you'd go through about a pint and a half a tank of gas.
Hmm.
Lots of guys, it was a thing around here. Lots of guys would run windshield washer fluid and have alcohol in it. I never did. I put fucking water in it.
I knew a guy who he had a square body Chevy. His was the 6.5 diesel, non-turbo. No, sorry, 6.2 diesel non-turbo. It was a good looking truck though. I don't know how his dad found it. It was a white short box, red pinstripe, crushed red velvet interior. You know what I'm talking about because you remember square bodies. And it had Alcoa wheels, half ton, with the 6.2 diesel. And I forgot where I was going with that. Sorry, I just brain farted.
Something in the vein of water injection, I would say.
Maybe.
Sorry, we lost like most of our viewers, so we're cool.
Shit.
There's only like 2 people watching.
I forgot where I was going with that. My apologies.
That's all right. Well, from moving on from this boring topic that we've been talking about for an hour and a half, paint drying. What do you guys think about it?
I don't like to watch it.
No, but it happens. If you
Well,
walk
it
It
depends
away,
on how hard you
you're
get your missus to blow on the wall after you're done painting it.
oh
or
yeah,
something else. That's where
that
I
is
was going.
that is cheaper than the fucking than a fan though. But yeah, if we go with Tony's route, that'll just make time fly, so the paint will dry faster actually. No, but
I
let's
could sit there for 12 minutes while she's blowing on me while the paint dries.
shit.
14 if I'm really, really into holding back.
Let's get into some shit. I think that we could all get down with this one. I know Sean has spoken about the Trump secrets and all that shit before somewhere on some forum or something like that. Um, First of all, the question is, did Trump steal government secrets, and is the Fed trying to lock up Trump? Let's start with that before we get into my conspiracy that Trump is still just part of the same problem that we've been having.
Okay.
Did he steal them? Biden's on national television saying he takes shit home all the time too. He just brings it back.
But Trump didn't bring it back though, see?
Well, in Trump's defense, all the documents he took out of uh, his administration, he claims that he had declassified everything he took with him.
Right.
So the reason he's asking for like a special marshal that's overlooking this is basically like vote counting. He wants somebody independent to go in there and verify that every single thing that he took out of there was declassified. That's going to take some time because if you think about it, the opposition, I'm not going to just say the Democrats, let's just say the opposition,
Right.
they are trying to, they were using this as a delay tactic because they could have done this the day after he left office. But they didn't. They waited 20 months to do this. Why? Because they were delaying to smear Republicans who would defend him ahead of the midterm elections because they knew that they were about to get wiped off the map, politically speaking. So they were like, we need this. We need to dirty up the water and make everything cloudy for the voter just before the election. Let's just put out scandal after scandal after scandal. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what happened when Trump won his election before he was even inaugurated. It was scandal after scandal. It was Russia collusion. It was hookers peeing on beds. Putin. It was whatever they could try to get to stick. And unfortunately, the typical voter is so low information that they just scroll down the website, read the headline, and go, he's guilty, and just go on to the next story about fucking puppies.
Right.
They never read the details. I think what's going to end up happening is they're doing this because their ultimate goal is after the midterms, they're going to look at their losses, politically speaking, and go, hey, look, we're out of the majority, but barely. So they're physically back in the same condition they were in when Trump took office. They had just enough Democrats to constantly fuck things up. Like nothing just passed with a majority, with a supermajority, because the Republicans never had it. There was always enough Democrats to stop things, either with injunctions or fucking tabloid bullshit or lawsuits or impeachment proceedings or whatever you want to call it, right? So they're trying to get back to that position by this November. Afterwards, all of their focus, I guarantee you this, After the elections are over, their focus will be solely on trying to disqualify the candidate, Donald J. Trump. They're going to try to prove legally that he doesn't meet the criteria to even be on the ballot because they know they can't beat him otherwise. That's what this is all about. It's a massive smear campaign to disqualify him as a candidate because they already know if he was, he would win. They can't stop it. There are too many people who still want him in the White House.
I agree with you about what has happened with Trump. The why is where I disagree. Now, let's take this back real fast to Obama. Now,
Okay.
Obama was our first black president, which means that it's supposed to end racism and it's supposed to bring everybody together. Who didn't it work on? Mostly conservatives.
Anybody?
Well, mostly conservative. No, you're right. Towards the end, you're right because that he was supposed to be the one we all got behind, but then everyone's seen that he was a liar, and I would say one of the worst liars that we've had in office. But that didn't work, and it mostly didn't work on conservatives. So they built up this underdog story here with Trump. Everything that they could throw at him, they threw at him. Grabbing pussies, fucking porn stars, being on the pedophile thing with Epstein while they were ignoring Clinton being on it. Well, that was after he was in office. But nonetheless, they threw everything that they could fucking throw at this fucking guy, making him the underdog, which means that once he won, he was the hero. He was America's hero. And people can get behind one of two things, loving him or hating him. So now they're doing the same thing as what I feel like. I feel like it's just a part of the same charade, is that they're going to make Biden, first of all, look like a complete retard. That even the people, Gunmetal guy was saying something about it earlier in the comments, that even the people that fucking voted for him and love him are going to see all of the retarded shit that he did and how he ruined money. And fucking Trump's going to be the underdog hero that everybody can get behind. And
Uh,
one world
I'm
government
about
us.
I'm about halfway with you on that because the reason it's an easy sale is because when he runs, he's going to say, when I ran in, what was it, 2018, 2016, or whatever, when I ran, I made a promise to America that I would make America great again. That's not a dirty word. What he meant was, is we're going to stop pissing our fucking money away on everything outside of our borders and start focusing on ourselves for a little bit because we can't be a superpower that the world envies unless we make ourselves a superpower. And we've been slowly bankrupting ourselves and we become a joke because like I don't know if you knew this, but India just surpassed UK as the fifth largest economy in the world. We used to jokingly say that they're not a first world country, that they're a third world country. That's bullshit now. They're the fifth largest in the world. They surpassed their occupiers. Think about that. That would be like Native American Indians have more billionaires per capita in the United States than everyone else in the United States. That's the same kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
They're gonna Trump's gonna run on I made you a promise when I ran for president the first time, and I kept my word as much as I could when I wasn't constantly being hamstringed by libtards. And I hope he uses that word. And then he goes, now, if you vote for me again, I will clean this. I will clean this shit up. I will sacrifice the last 4 years I can be president just to get things back to the day I left office the first time. If you give me a super majority to do it, that's the best he could do.
Hey,
You can't
Muscles.
ask him, like right now, the Titanic is at the bottom of the ocean, right? When he ran for office, it was still in Belfast. When he finished his term, it had just hit the iceberg. Now it's at the bottom of the ocean. All he's saying is I'm going to get you back to 2 a.m. April 14th, 1914. I'm going to put you right before the iceberg. But this time, America has the spotlights pointed right at that motherfucker, and it's called the DNC. And we're not going to collide into it this time.
Hmm.
That's all he's saying. And he's going to win by a landslide with that message. The only problem with that is there's a guy in Florida named Ron DeSantis, and he's saying all the right things, and everyone's starting to say maybe it's his time. And I disagree with that. I think you should allow Trump to stay as president of the United States if he gets elected, and have him take Ron DeSantis on as a vice president. And that's really hard for me to say because I actually liked Greg Abbott. But if Trump was in a room with DeSantis and Abbott, he would sit there and go, listen, gentlemen, it's not your time. Follow me, and I will take you there to the promised land. You be my vice president. You will be on my cabinet. We'll do out the 4 years, and whoever my vice president is can then run for president after my term. And that cabinet member, whether it be Abbott or DeSantis, you take your pick, that guy becomes the other guy's vice president for that term. So then he gets 8 years, and then that guy becomes president for 8 years. That's 20 years of conservatism locked down. Common sense locked down. Libtards locked out. If he has that conversation, that would be the most powerful trio in politics. And none of them towed the party line. That's why they're the enemy of both parties right now. Like all three of them.
You notice how MAGA is being led out from the mass media as being terrorists?
Radical and terrorist. Yeah, and it's like, wait a minute. What happened to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? We can do that in our country for ourselves. We don't have to piss it away abroad. That's what MAGA meant. It was, I hate to say this because I can see the parallels here, but there was a little short Bohemian corporal one time back in the 1920s, and he used to sit in a bar and pound on the table, and he was like, we need to stop being embarrassed about the mistakes our grandfathers and fathers made. We need to be proud to be in our country. We need to build here. We need to buy here. We need to be great. And he was like, we need to make Germany great again. Unfortunately, he took on an entire staff of lunatics, and his Parkinson's disease warped his brain. But back in the 1920s, the guy was like, we should actually stop being embarrassed of who we are and be proud of who we are and build our country back up. And that's what Trump did.
And kill all the fucking Jews.
Well, that's because he was, dude, that dude was warped. I'm not agreeing with anything past what I said about his make Germany great again part. Everything beyond that is fucked up.
I agree with you. I have said on a number of occasions that if you look at early Hitler,
don't say the name.
And you don't look too fucking deep.
Break Godwin's law.
Oh,
Point is,
if you don't look too deep, he looks like a fucking hero.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what the MAGA movement was. It was like, look, spend the money here, build here, stop being dependent on everyone outside of your country, because everything we need in America to run this country is here. Like, China can't say that. China doesn't have oil fields on their country. We do. China has a lot of mountains and has a lot of desert. So do we. But we also have fields, we have coast, we have everything. Anything that we need to build can be found and made here. It's sort of like anything that you need to survive can be found in nature. It's the same principle.
We got lots of white guys here.
Do you guys agree? Would you guys agree that the Federal Reserve runs the United States?
No. The Federal Reserve has one job, and it's a dirty one. It's a sick, dirty job.
What's that?
Their job
is lend us money every time we go to war?
No. Their job is to deliberately kill off prosperity in this country. That's their job. That's not even conspiracy theory. I'll give you a slam dunk reason why I know this. Look at how
part of the U.S. That's part of it.
Look how fast the economy grew during Trump's administration. Look how low unemployment was. Look how many home loans were being put out. Look how many businesses and factories were being installed here. The fact of the matter is the nation that is prosperous is also, according to the Fed, a nation that could be pilfered for profit in the form of interest. They raise interest rates to slam the brakes on prosperity. They don't want the working class to be rich. And I don't understand it, because they'll say, oh, because it's to curb inflation. No, it's not. Think about it like this. If everyone in this country was a millionaire, you would say, oh my God, then everything would cost $1 million because everyone has enough money to afford it all. No, because what you could do is, if your nation was that prosperous and your market is that saturated with supply to meet demand, think about how good your exports must look. Because then what you're saying is for every container ship full of stuff we keep here, we send out 100. So we profit off the rest of the world, and we don't profit off of one another in this country. They don't want that. They want
We
a
ain't
nation
making that
of their
shit
own
here.
independence.
Yeah,
We're getting it from fucking China.
and
No, we
they'll
were
never
working
let
for
that shit happen anyway because the slave cannot surpass the master. They won't let it
That's
happen.
exactly. They want you codependent on government. They are a puppet of the government. And they're probably the worst one because it's the thing that affects even the lowest level employee. When interest rates go up, it affects everybody.
Well, see,
Because
I
what did
think
they do? They slammed the brakes on interest rates. They started hiking them up because they were like, "Oh my God, inflation!" Right? Now home loans are more expensive. Credit card bills are more expensive. People can't take out loans like they used to, or they're defaulting on them because now they have elevated interest rates, and they're like, "I can't take on all this debt anymore." The nation was successful because the interest rates were low. Businesses followed Trump's mantra of "bring it back to America." So they were like, you know what? We'll take the risk. We'll take that $10 billion loan to build a facility here and hire all these people. Sure, the initial layout's going to cost us, but we're going to profit by volume based off of how much stuff that we're going to build here now. Now that we don't have to truck it over, now that we don't have to ferry it over on boat and wait for customs and all this other bullshit.
right,
He
yeah.
gave America incentives to do that,
I hear
and
what you're
America responded.
I hear what you're saying, but I believe that it's in the reverse when you say that they're the puppet of the government. I believe that the government is the puppet of them, of the
You're
reserve.
saying that the Fed pulls the strings of Washington.
Absolutely, how they're the ones that we're in debt to them. Well, China and everything else too. But yeah, absolutely.
I would argue that they pull the
Uh,
puppets or the purse strings of Washington. Because the fact of the matter is who deals with the budget? It's not the president, it's Congress. So if anything, the Fed actually pays Congress, and Congress is what squanders the money. The president just signs the bills if he agrees with them.
Yeah, but I just say everybody that's gone against this system, quote this thing that we have in play, something bad has happened to them in a one way or another. You know, Lincoln, McKinley, Garfield, Kennedy. They tried
Good
to kill
example.
Johnson. They tried to kill Roosevelt. They tried to kill Reagan.
Well, they got Roosevelt. They got him. Well, something got him
Well,
in 45.
Teddy.
Oh, they tried to send him up San Juan Hill. All right. Since we're on government and money, I want to talk about the student loan forgiveness thing. Have you noticed that they stopped talking about it?
Well, I thought it went away.
I read stories that say otherwise. I read stories that say now that it's here, this is how to avoid scams, which makes me wonder, did they pass it? I don't think they did, but if they passed it, here's my response. Okay. They avoided the question. Karine Jean Pierre, the White House press secretary, I think she's about to lose her job. She's been dodging the question of who's going to pay this bill for 9 days. Biden has avoided the question of who's going to pay this proposal for 9 days, right? Because we all know who's going to pay it. Us, the taxpayer. Even though I worked 2 jobs and had to pay my way through college myself, and I couldn't afford to finish my fucking PhD because that was way too expensive, right? They won't explain why I have to pay for the next level of next generation of irresponsible little shits taking out loans for fucking liberal arts degrees. I'm not going to do it. So there's only one solution to this. If Congress finds a way to pass this, nuclear option or whatever, if fucking crooked little Nancy Pelosi finally signs that bill that says to the White House, the only response we have in kind as a taxpaying voter is to pressure our local leader, our governors, to go in and shackle the doors of the state IRS buildings, shut the doors down, lock out the taxpayer revenue. So, like for instance, Texas, where I am, right? If Greg Abbott was like, "This is bullshit, I'm not paying for this," he would order all IRS offices in the state of Texas to shut down, lock the doors, and put fucking National Guard there guarding the door if you have to. Do not let anyone come into work at the IRS in your state because you're a Texan first and a federal employee second. You live here, you work here, you answer to him first, right? And you tell Washington, the funds of internal revenue, of tax revenue in my state will not go to you. We are shutting this down. You are not getting a cent from the state of Texas. Fuck you. We're not paying for this shit. You get like 10 states to do that, and the fallout from that would be immense.
It'll
You get
never
10 red
happen.
states. You get 10 red states to do it. If Texas did it, you goddamn know for sure Louisiana and Florida will follow. Oklahoma may follow. That's
The,
4 right there.
the federal government's like the mafia. They're the top.
Doesn't matter.
The states are their capos and they're fucking. You know what I'm
I
saying?
get
They're
it. I get it, but it doesn't matter because if they can't forward the money over because the offices are closed, that means the money's not going anywhere. It's not even getting to the office in the state. Because you got to remember, when you file your taxes, if you did it the old-fashioned way, you filled out your form, you signed it, you put it in an envelope, and you mailed it to basically your state capital. My IRS office in Texas is in the capital, Austin. It doesn't go to Washington, D.C. It does not go to the IRS, Washington, D.C. It goes to the IRS, Austin, Texas. And I bet every one of you who file your taxes, you would recognize that too. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. It doesn't go straight to D.C. It goes to the state.
Kansas City.
They collect it in places, and then those places send it to DC. So if you stop it from even leaving your state is basically saying we're not paying you a cent. That's how you do it. That's the only way to do it because you're not going to win this militarily.
well,
They'll just start
still extort
January
us.
6th.
They could still extort us for taxes, though. Even if the states stopped paying, the IRS could get us individually.
How?
The IRS will just reach into the fucking bank and take it.
Yeah.
Well, they can try, but if the
Or
places
arrest
are
you
closed,
for not doing it. There's the fear of
well,
that.
that's the whole point, though. It wouldn't get to that point if an entire state led by its governor says we're not paying you. Then you're basically saying that we all put our faith in the governor to keep the money away from the government. The government would have to go after the governor of the state, not the individual taxpayer. He's the one.
I wonder how many
The government would go
Confederate.
after. Go ahead.
I wonder how many Confederates said that shit'll never go that far.
The government will go after the governor. He'll get his, but every individual that goes along with it will get theirs along with him, though, too.
Yeah, we're talking like a year later. I mean, think about how long it takes for them to audit you and come raid you.
Oh yeah,
Think about
that's
how long
true.
it took them to get Al Capone.
They just hired 87,000 more agents, though, man.
Exactly, but I mean, okay,
So
imagine it.
it's getting
You know,
scary.
they're coming, right? They're not driving here; they're flying in, right? Let's say you know that you intercept that information that the IRS agents have a plane and they're going to land it. First of all, your air traffic controller is not going to allow you to land. They won't give you clearance. Even if they do land, you have your National Guard waiting at the airport to capture and imprison them. Done. You can't tell me it can't be done. Anytime you tell me it can't be done, I'll give you an example of how it was already done. Because there's no such thing as new ideas. There's only new delivery systems. Firearms are a perfect example of that. We have not created a firearm that does something revolutionary in decades. All we've done is take the original platform and make it better, or faster, or more efficient, or quicker to load. It's the same thing with ideas. There aren't any new ideas. If you think about I'll go back to the hydrogen fuel cell. It's a new way to make the car do car things. It's not a new thing. It's just a new idea to make the thing work. You stop feeding the government what it needs. Perfect example. This has already happened. Oh, we couldn't pass a budget. We have to shut down the government because we can't afford to pay anybody. Bullshit. National debt? Absolute bullshit. You know what it should be called? National expenditure. That's what it is. It's not a debt because they're still writing the checks. The government never once called Lockheed Martin and said, hey, we know we put in these fucking orders for these planes, but we can't afford to pay you. They never, ever say that. They write the check and send it.
No, but they say that your Social Security ain't going to be sent to you because we ain't running.
You know what's fucked up about that? First of all, okay, what's fucked up about Social Security is, number one, it is the only legal pyramid scheme in this country. It was designed that way. Number two, it was invented by a Democrat. Now, granted, FDR is not the Democrat of today. If anything, he's more like the H. Ross Perot of the day. So, in terms of who I think one of the last great Democrats is, and I know you're going to bring up that bullshit about internment, but he was probably the last great Democrat. Because Kennedy didn't have enough time to really prove himself, let's be honest. Either way, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
You thought about those Kennedy internment camps that might be happening, and
No, it's not that. It's just we stop paying the government because they're the ones they try to shut down all the time, and we know that they just keep writing the checks, and then they call that national debt. The thing is it's a debt to ourselves, right?
of course.
Lockheed Martin is still getting paid. The only person who's accruing debt is the federal government itself. They're still writing the checks. If the government just says, look, here's the budget, and it looks like a yellow pages, because I've actually requested it before and they send it to you. They have to. It's a giant waste of paper. If you really want to piss someone off with the government, you write your government and say, I would like to request the 2022 fiscal budget. They'll send it to you. I've done it before. I used it as a research material when I was in high school. It was huge. They're still paying all those bills. So if the government just says, look, this is our budget, this is what it's going to cost the country to do it, and they just write it off, who fucking cares? It's like, okay, we can pay taxes, fine, but don't ever tell us we're in debt to ourselves. Because if you know exactly how much you're getting from us, then you should never spend more than that dollar amount, ever. Oh, now I remember what I was talking about, the Social Security thing. I brain farted earlier, that's why I was like, whatever. The Social Security system was the first legal pyramid scheme in this country. It was set up knowing that your country's population would outpace the population dying off. It's just a natural thing of humanity, right? Unless you have famine or disease.
Oh yeah, person will
So
never get back exactly what they put in. You know, they won't get
they get more.
even close. Yeah.
They get more. But here's the thing. It was set up this way because they knew for every worker going into retirement, there was probably 3 to 5 workers going into the workforce as a replacement, which is why there's a pyramid. The recipient is always the guy at the top because he's the smallest population. The working class, based on their age, their age groups, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, and teens, those are the different layers of the pyramid, right? Everyone below the top pays in to pay the guy at the top. And you are climbing up that by your age. By the time you get to the top, that base of the pyramid is even bigger because the population, right? When Social Security started, this country, I think, only had about maybe 60 million people ish. Now there's 366 million if you count all the illegals. The base of the pyramid is 6 times larger, which means the pool feeding it is 6 times larger than it did when it was created. So all of this is feeding the system. The other thing is the federal government was never supposed to fucking put their grubby little paws on it. It was originally created that we're going to create this system, bank it, draw interest from it, so that way we can pay you out when you finished your debt or your service to humanity or society, right? Government started to realize how much money was coming in because of the influx of population that they were like, we can skim a little off the top. It's the system can handle it. And we can use this to fund, we'll call it public schools. And then on page 699 of public schools, there's a pork fat bill for fucking the development of Nancy Pelosi's new freezer for her ice cream and bullshit like that, pork barrel projects. The Social Security system in this country was tampered or nearly bankrupted by 5 administrations, all Democrat. Every fucking time that Social Security was fucked with, it was done during a Democratic administration. They fucked it up. And now they're going to turn around and tell you that when you retire, there ain't no money left for you because they squandered it on Bitcoin and Nancy's fucking drunk husband. Shit like that. It's bullshit. If they left it the way it was designed, it would have never gone bankrupt. It would be the most prosperous entity of government, period, hands down. And the thing is they should never touch it, even though if it's adjusted for inflation and it has more money being put into it and it's making more money than it's paying out, they have to factor in the value of the dollar adjusted for inflation. So like, if you notice, like my dad is a good example of this, but Rick's a great example of this because, he went on Social Security a couple of years ago. Look at the cost of living increases per year against the Social Security payout benefit increases over a year. Cost of living generally goes up anywhere between 5 to 8% a year on average. With this inflation, it's more like 12 to 15%. The Social Security payout payday increases has always been less than 1%. Now, just recently, it went up to like 1.5 or 2%. But historically, it's gone up a shred of a percent, not a whole percent. And it's like, okay, well, if inflation went up 20% and the cost of living went up 15%, and you're only making me an extra 1.5%, my money is worth less because I have to pay more. Well, if they never touched Social Security and it had all this money in it, they would have been able to adjust it equal to the rate of inflation and cost of living. But they don't. Because now that they bankrupted it and they give you less than you need, guess what else that did? Just like everything else in government, it made you codependent on the government for handouts again. This is all by design. I'm done. I'm done. Did Jimmy
I
pass out?
believe last year's increase was like 3.1%.
Wow. After how
Yeah,
many
that was
years
a
of
whopper.
yeah, but after how many years of 8% cost of living increases for the last, what, 20 years? Remember what? I don't know if I told you about this. When I graduated high school, I worked for Chevrolet. I was a mechanic. When I was a mechanic, I was going to buy myself a truck, a nice one. I looked at a 1-ton dually, big block Chevy, 4-wheel drive. Huge, right? Sticker on it was $40,000. 40 grand, brand new truck. That same truck today, fully loaded, Duramax, 100 grand. You're telling me in 25 years the cost of the truck went up 2.5 times? Why?
Well,
Do you know? Do you know how much it cost to make them? It cost them 9 grand to build that truck. I saw the invoices.
look what it cost 20 years prior to that.
There wasn't a 1-ton crew cab dually back then. They were customs. But you're right. Like, and one could even argue gas prices, right? So my dad used to tell me when he graduated high school in 1953. He said gas was, I think, 17 cents a gallon. By the time he got back from Vietnam, gas was 79 cents a gallon ish. And then when I graduated high school, strangely enough, I paid 77 cents a gallon the day I graduated high school because we were in this huge energy prosperity part in the late 90s, right? And it was immediately followed by the dot-com bubble and the oil speculator crisis, which essentially killed off the Ford Excursion. Because oil went from $17 a barrel to $160 a barrel in less than a year. It's like, what the fuck? Now look where it's at. Oil's not $160 a barrel, and yet gas is more expensive than it was back when it was $160 a barrel. And what's their argument for that? Inflation. Well, the price of the barrel didn't inflate, so what the fuck are you telling us? Oh, it costs more to produce now. Why? We were more efficient now. The plants are more efficient. The rigs are more efficient. The logistics are more efficient. If anything, it should be cheaper because it's easier to do now.
Can't get people to work.
I think oil rig workers are perfectly happy being oil rig workers, considering how much they make. Like, I knew a worm. I think they're called worms. The rig workers. He got paid really good, really good. Granted, he came home dirty and stinking every day, but because he was land based. Either way, they make good money. Yes, today's society sort of discourages ingenuity. It discourages working with your hands. That's why Mike Rowe is. Did you notice that Mike Rowe is back because he saw that America forgot how to do trade jobs. Dirty jobs was supposed to be a way to celebrate the working class. And then it sort of went off
Mikey,
here. It came back though. And now he does
all right, guys,
commentary.
I
He's
got to
able to
bail.
bring-
Everybody have a good day. Catch y'all later and all that good stuff.
All right, Tony.
Oh wait, I was my bad. This is a little
Where
bit.
were you?
Mm, I don't want to
Were you
talk
starting
about it.
your labor? Were you starting your Labor Day festivities early?
It's begun. So Tony, you got anything going on or anything? You gonna be here Friday?
Uh, God willing, yeah.
All right. We'll be back Friday, guys. Have a good one.
I know what's going on.
Yeah.